Hello, my name is NHarlow, and the title of my presentation is These Games Are Going into OT. And OT in this sense is a play on words because it could both mean occupational therapy or overtime. My research question is, are games an effective and affordable solution to traditional occupational therapy practices when it comes to the promotion and maintenance of fine motor skills? I got into this subject because I myself actually have quite a few difficulties with fine motor skill usage. And one day I was sitting around playing chess with one of my friends, and I was thinking, you know, it takes quite a bit of fine motor skill usage to keep these pieces on the board without like overturning or spilling the whole thing over. And I was thinking, you know, continual practice of these motions, I wonder if that actually help you with improvement of fine motor skills on a whole or just maintenance in general. My internship was served under Miss Renee Nish, who's an occupational therapist in the Greene County school systems. And she explained to me that occupational therapy is not just used in a school setting, it's also used in the medical setting, like hospital, any form of medicine you can think of. It's used for maintenance or rehabilitation purposes. So this is a picture that represents the physical aspect of occupational therapy, such as arthritis or muscle trauma. And that's the main thing that occupational therapy deals with on a whole. And this would be the neurological aspect, which would be like a mental deficiency, which could cause mental physical issues, such as a common example would be the inability to cross the midline, which is the symmetrical axis that cuts your body down like this. The inability to cross your midline would be considered a neurological difficulty that would be associated with fine motor skill usage, as well as gross motor skills. The difference between fine and gross motor skills being that fine is very like a minute action, whereas gross is like the ability to live. This picture is for the history of occupational therapy, which began immediately after World War I. When soldiers were returning home, they needed rehabilitation to be able to return into the workforce successfully and get back into the leisure activities and things of that nature. So it became very important for them to receive some form of therapy to get themselves back up to speed when it came to, you know, motor skill usage and both gross and fine motor skills. The first thing I did with Mr. a game played where you had to pick up these little acorns that were color-coded with these like squirrel-shaped tongs. And it was pretty neat because it focused on both the neurological and physical aspects of fine motor skills. The neurological with the color coordination and the matching, and the physical with the having to actually pick up the tiny acorn and get it into this little slot. which actually was quite challenging. Another tool I saw her use was actually just a little simple thing she made herself, which it was to help kids learn how to trace and draw circles. And it's actually quite hard to do if you have really like strong issues with fine motor skills. But the point would be that you stick like a piece of like a pencil down and just try to trace the circle. In continual practice, you'll eventually have the ability to do that by yourself, hopefully. Another thing I saw her use was this, which was like a swing she built or like set up. And this you lay down in its stomach forward like that, and you try to spin yourself around. And as you span, you'd be forced to continually cross the midline with your hands. So it would help treat the neurological and physical aspects. Now this is the neatest thing I saw, which was it helped kids learn how to like trace and like draw names and stuff like that. And essentially what they do is they like write out their name, and it really got them interested off of glowed neon. So kids really enjoyed that and were really good at following directions when that tool was used because it was just fun. And that's just a standard Etch-a-Sketch, which is a similar tool, but it doesn't glow in the dark, so the kids weren't just interested in that one. Now this is a Halloween themed game that she rigged up, which was she was like rigged up like cables, and essentially you'd have to crawl through, which involved crossing the midline and gross motor skill usage on the whole. And the fine motor skill part came in when you had to pick up these little tiny spiders without hitting into the cable of the web. There's a little picture of one of the little plastic spider rings. Here I am with my community service mentor, Miss Sandra Davis of the Jefferson Area Board for the Aging. For her, I mostly worked on trying to collect bingo prizes, and I also spent a day or two just working. And there's Miss Chastity Gentry, who was another community service mentor I had, who works at the Union County Child Care Center. For my first part of my project, I was trying to actually get toys and things that could be used for the promotion of maintenance and fine motor skills. So I reached out to the community, such as like Dr. Armengol and a couple of businesses nearby, like Farm Bureau, to try to get games for children to use that could help occupational or just fine motor skill usage. The first game I got, which was really good, was Operation, which is probably the thing that most people think of when it comes to picking up small items with little pliers, and that really focuses on fine motor skill usage. Another thing I got, which I thought was very neat, was these lacing shoes, which were the toys that are designed to help kids learn how to tie their shoes and things of that nature, which really involve a lot of fine motor skills. So if children are having difficulty with that, continual practice is actually quite useful. I also got safety scissors, which are really good for people who have fine motor skill detriments because you don't want to slip or do anything awful. And let's see here, such as trouble can also be used to help with fine motor skill and gross motor skill usage. In total, from this part of my project, I received 53 items total, cash totaling $50, and a check for $25. Here I am delivering everything to Ms. Chastity Gentry. After this, I wrote a bunch of thank you notes to send out to the community for the people that donated. I was very grateful because I actually got a much larger turnout than I expected. For the other part of my community service, I worked with Miss Sandra Davis, and the first thing I did was participate in their annual Rockathon, which I thought was kind of funny because it was like, you know how people will pay sponsors to run and like different things like marathons? Well, in this, they pay them to rock in the rocking chair. And at this event, there were several things set up, such as a cornhole game, which I worked, which was good for practicing gross motor skills. There were a lot of children there as well, so that was good. Senior citizens who allowed me to take photos of them in the Rockathon. I also raised bingo prizes for Miss Sandra Davis because she asked if I had a way to do that. Well, I'd already reached out to the community once, so I figured, hey, why not try it again? So this time I mailed all my neighbors, and I received quite a few donations again, which was really good. I was actually pleasantly surprised because the day after I sent out my letter, I actually got a bunch of people responding pretty much immediately, which I thought was really great. received 85 items, $15 Starbucks gift card, a $25 Outback gift card, and monetary donations up to $60. Here I am delivering everything. Now, on my final day working for Miss Sandra Davis, they were working on creating like potted plants using newspaper, which required both gross and fine motor skills, because to roll them up, you had to put a little cup in like the center, roll around it, and then tape the bottoms so that it wouldn't leak. So that was the gross motor skill part, and then the ability to plant the seeds and stuff like that effectively was more related to the fine motor skill usage. Here are the potted plants. I also helped build a portable toilet seat, which was used for people with gross motor skills problems, and it was actually quite an interesting thing to build. I also helped repair a cabinet that had a screw missing there. There were some fine motor skill issues that the people who normally did the maintenance there had, and they couldn't get into the screw that was on the upper left towards the front part of the cabinet. So I just had some tools on me and I helped fix that. So this picture is meant to symbolize both the old and the young when it comes to occupational therapy. And I was very lucky because on my last day of working with with Miss Davis, the kids from a local daycare center showed up, and I both got to see the geriatric and juvenile sides of occupational therapy in the same day. So this picture is for another game, which is one of my favorites, that helps with motor skill issues, like gross motor skills mostly, and that's billiards. I've been working on something myself that would help people with steadying their shots in pool, like that have like one arm, or some other detriment like arthritis. It's called the Cannonade. The only trouble with this though is it's made out of metal, so when you go to take your shot, you will actually end up stripping the ferrule off your cue, which is the white part that holds the tip, and that's not a good thing. My future plans, I plan on attending the University of Virginia for engineering. I hope to study biomedical engineering so I can actually work on things like fine motor skill, like aids for that sort of stuff. For any advice for current students or who will be arriving next year to do this, don't pick something that you know that you're interested in already. Pick something that's a branch out, like that you don't know you want to do. You have years and years in college to explore the thing that you've already picked. Try something new to see if you can pique your interests in a different field. Thank you. Are there any questions?
What advice do you have for a high school student who might wish to go into OT?
Well, that's a good question. See, there's plenty of paths to get to where you're going. So it just depends on what kind of OT you want to work with. Would you like to work in the hospital setting or the nursing home? Like, there are several schools in the state that offer occupational therapy as a major. So you just have to pick one that suits you best. And for a high school student who wanted to get into it, I try to find a way to intern or job shadow at a nursing home, or even with Miss Renee Mitchell, she'd allow it.
Oh, in your research, what were some things that you found about this that surprised you?
Well, I found that games and things of that nature will really help a kid focus in on like a specific activity. Like if you have an objective, it's much easier to get really involved in the task. So a game gives you an objective such as winning. So the point would be that as you become more and more involved in, like, let's say winning a game that's based on fine motor skills, you'll be more involved in your treatment than you would with a standard occupational therapy practice such as unscrewing a jar or something of that nature, just repeated practice.
And as a follow-up on that, did you see any data about the efficacy of that? Like how much more effective were games?
It was hard to measure how much more effective it was. I couldn't find any studies that were like really, really clear on that, but I did find some quotes from people that had published medical journals that were of that effect.
In the school setting, did you come across any research or with your internship about how effective it is with students, the benefits?
Well, it all depends on the student, because depending on your you're a deficit or your inability to do something, then it'll determine how effective the treatment is. Like if I have an issue such as dysgraphia or something minor, repeated practice will eventually get my hands steadier. But if I have an issue such as Down syndrome, it's going to be much harder for me to overcome that. So the efficacy of the treatment really just depends on how severe your symptoms are from the beginning.
Well, what did you learn about yourself from this experience? How do you feel like you grew?
Well, I learned that occupational therapy is a fun field, but I don't think it would be for me because it's really about patience and being able to sit and work his own like just with it's not really that active in its own right. It's not like problem solving, it's just continual usage of the same skills. I'm more interested in like doing, problem solving on a whole level, like mathematics and stuff of that nature.
So what do you see yourself doing?
Well, I'd really like to go into biomedical engineering so I could learn how to make a device that would help people keep their hands steady, like maybe a brace or something of that nature that would just completely eradicate the need for this.
Any other questions for Noah? Thank you.